The Galactic Concord ruled most of known space. It was not an empire of conquest but of agreement. Ancient species, powerful civilizations and star-spanning alliances sat together in the great crystal hall above the gas giant Verelion. Their fleets kept peace. Their laws decided who lived, who traded, and who was allowed to travel between the stars. And today they were discussing humans. A small hologram hovered at the center of the chamber. It showed a blue planet with white clouds and green land. Primitive, said High Curator Zelnara, her many eyes blinking in boredom. They split the atom before mastering interstellar harmony. Barbaric. They still wage wars among themselves, added Ambassador Kor of the Threx Dominion, his armored tail tapping the floor. A species that fights its own kind cannot be trusted with advanced technology. The chamber filled with approving clicks, hums and psychic murmurs. Humanity had only recently reached faster-than-light travel. Their ships were crude compared to Concord standards. Their energy weapons were inefficient. Their shields were weak. Most insulting of all, they traveled alone. No great alliance. No protector species. No ancient mentors. Just one ship. The hologram shifted, showing a small human vessel drifting near the edge of Concord space. Designation: UNS Horizon's Wake. Crew: 9 humans. Mission: exploration and first contact. Why is it even here? Asked Zelnara. They were warned not to cross the border. Kor's mandibles curved into something like a smile. Perhaps they wish to test the galaxy. A short lesson will teach them humility. A command was sent. 3 patrol cruisers from the Valorian Collective changed course. They were elegant ships shaped like silver blades, glowing with layered shields and plasma cores. Against them, the human vessel looked like scrap metal held together by stubbornness. On the bridge of the Horizon's Wake, Captain Elena Ward watched the sensor display tighten with red warning rings. Multiple contacts, said Lieutenant Raj Mehta, calm but tense. Valorian design. Heavily armed. Elena folded her hands behind her back. She did not raise her voice. They finally noticed us, she said. Commander Mara Chen, tactical officer, frowned. We're outgunned by a factor of at least 20. Good, Elena replied. That means they'll underestimate us. The ship's AI Atlas spoke softly. Captain, Concord law allows them to disable or destroy us for border violation. Elena smiled faintly. Atlas, remind me, did we violate their border? Technically no, Atlas answered. The boundary marker shifted after a stellar drift. By updated coordinates, we are in neutral space. Then we hold position, Elena said. And we record everything. The Valorian ships formed a triangle around the Horizon's Wake. A booming transmission filled the bridge. Unknown vessel, a cold alien voice said. Power down your engines. Prepare to be boarded or destroyed. Raj glanced at Elena. Orders. She stepped forward. This is Captain Elena Ward of the United Nations ship Horizon's Wake, she said clearly. We are explorers. We claim no territory. We request peaceful contact. There was a pause. Then laughter. Actual laughter translated into harsh static. Your request is denied, the alien replied. Your species is classified as Tier 7 emerging. You have no standing here. Mara clenched her fists. They didn't even scan us. They don't need to, Elena said quietly. They think they already know who we are. On Verelion, the Concord watched the encounter with mild interest. End it quickly, Zelnara said. I have other matters. The Valorian cruisers powered weapons. Energy readings spiked. Atlas spoke again. Captain, probability of survival if we fight. Less than 3%. Elena nodded. Then we don't fight. She tapped her console. Plan Echo, she said. Across the ship, systems shifted. Power dropped in visible sections. Hull lights dimmed. The ship began to drift, appearing helpless. On the Valorian flagship, the commander observed the change. They are surrendering, he said. As expected. He gave the order to approach. That was the moment Elena had been waiting for. Now, she whispered. Hidden systems activated. Not weapons. Not shields. Something else. The Horizon's Wake vanished. Not jumped. Not cloaked. Gone. Valorian sensors screamed errors. Target locks failed. Space rippled where the human ship had been. On Verelion, the Concord chamber erupted into noise. What did they do? Kor demanded. That technology is not registered, Zelnara hissed. It violates at least 12 accords. Moments later, the Horizon's Wake reappeared, behind the Valorian formation. Unarmed. silent, and broadcasting. A simple message echoed across Concord space. "We are humanity," Elena said calmly. "And we are not what you think." The galaxy for the first time paid attention. Silence spread across the Valorian formation. The human ship hung behind them like a ghost that refused to fade. Valorian sensors struggled to lock on. Their advanced prediction algorithms looped endlessly, unable to understand what had just happened. "That maneuver was impossible," the Valorian commander growled. "No known drive can fold space without a jump signature." On the bridge of the Horizon's wake, Captain Elena Ward finally exhaled. "Status," she said. "All systems green," Atlas replied. "Temporal displacement successful. No hostile locks." Marichin allowed herself a small smile. They took the bait perfectly. Raj leaned closer to his console. "Concord channels are lighting up. They're arguing already." Elena straightened. "Good. Confusion is our shield." She opened a wideband transmission, not to the Valorians but to the entire local network. "We are explorers," she said again, calm and steady. "We do not seek war. But we will not be bullied." The Valorian commander answered with rage in his voice. "You dare lecture us? You are alone." Elena nodded once. "Yes. And that should worry you." On Varelian, the Galactic Concord chamber was no longer bored. Screens replayed the maneuver again and again. Analysts froze frames. Physicists argued. Military strategists whispered. "That ship did not outrun them," said a crystalline being of the Illith Syndicate. "It repositioned reality." Zelnara's eyes narrowed. "Impossible for a Tier 7 species." Kor struck the floor with his tail. "Unless their classification is wrong." That thought unsettled the chamber more than the maneuver itself. Meanwhile, the Valorian commander made a fatal assumption. "They are bluffing," he said. "Fire a warning shot." A lance of blue plasma streaked toward the Horizon's wake. Mara's voice snapped. "Incoming." Elena did not shout. "Angle hull. Divert power to skin." The plasma struck. Instead of tearing through metal, it dispersed across the ship's surface like water hitting stone. Strange hexagonal patterns glowed, then faded. Raj stared. Hull integrity unchanged. Atlas spoke. Adaptive reactive armor functioned as designed. On the Valorian bridge, alarms blared. "What was that?" an officer hissed. "That was not a shield," the commander muttered. "That was the ship itself." Elena finally allowed steel into her voice. "That was your warning," she said. "Stand down." The Valorians answered with all weapons firing. Space erupted. 3 cruisers unleashed plasma ion beams and kinetic slugs. The human ship danced through the storm not faster but smarter. It predicted fire, slid into blind spots, used debris and microjumps measured in meters not light years. "Human piloting is irrational," one Valorian officer cried. "They move into danger instead of away." "That's because danger is where enemies expect you to fail," Mara replied quietly, hands moving like music across her controls. The Horizon's wake did not return fire. Instead, Atlas released something else. "Captain," the AI said, deploying cognitive warfare package. Invisible waves spread through the battlefield. Valorian targeting systems glitched. Command channels filled with echoes of their own orders, delayed by fractions of seconds. Those fractions were enough. 2 cruisers clipped each other while turning. The third drifted, engines stuttering. Elena opened a channel to the disabled flagship. "Your technology is superior," she admitted. "Your thinking is not." The Valorian commander stared at his shattered tactical display. "What are you?" he demanded. Elena answered honestly. "Survivors." On Varelian, panic replaced arrogance. "They weaponized logic itself," Zelnara whispered. "This is not brute force," said an elder being. "This is adaptation." Kor's voice was low. "If a single human ship can do this, what happens when they stop being alone?" The Concorde ordered an immediate ceasefire. A priority message cut through the chaos. To the human vessel Horizon's wake, it read. "This is the Galactic Concorde. We request negotiations." Elena muted the channel. Mara looked at her sharply. "That's risky." Elena shook her head. "No. This is leverage. They only negotiate when afraid." Raj smiled. "We scared the galaxy with one ship." "Not fear," Elena corrected. "Respect. Fear comes next if they choose wrong." She reopened the channel. "This is Captain Ward," she said. "We will talk. But not as a lesser species." Pause. "State your terms," the Concorde replied. Elena looked at her crew, 9 humans carrying the weight of an entire world. First, she said, recognize humanity as an equal power. Second, she continued, no more secret classifications. And third, her eyes hardened, never underestimate us again. Silence stretched across the stars. Then, reluctantly, the Concorde agreed. In a single encounter, the balance of the galaxy had shifted. And humanity had not even fired a weapon. The Concorde Assembly Hall was beautiful. Floating platforms of crystal and light drifted around a hollow sphere of stars. Delegates appeared as holograms, physical forms, or projected minds, depending on their nature. It was meant to inspire unity. To Captain Elena Ward, it felt like a battlefield with better lighting. The Horizon's wake remained docked far outside the station. Only Elena and Commander Mara Chen attended in person, wearing simple dark uniforms. No weapons, no armor. That alone unsettled the aliens. They show no fear, whispered a delegate of the Illith Syndicate. Or they hide it well, replied another. High Curator Zelnara floated forward, her many eyes fixed on the humans. Humanity, she said, your recent actions have caused concern. Elena met her gaze without hesitation. Your patrol attacked us in neutral space. We defended ourselves without killing anyone. If that causes concern, perhaps your system is flawed. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Core of the Threx Dominion leaned forward. Bold words for a species with 1 ship in our territory. Mara smiled thinly. Bold words for a council that just learned its fleets can be outthought. The air grew tense. Zelnara raised a limb. Enough. This session concerns classification and access. Humanity requests equal standing. Requests. Elena corrected. Demands. Equal standing or withdrawal from all Concorde space. A gasp echoed. Withdrawal? Core scoffed. You would isolate yourselves? Elena nodded. We've survived worse. That was not a bluff. The Concorde deliberated. Behind calm faces, ancient calculations raced. Humans were unpredictable. Dangerous not because of strength but because they refused to behave correctly. Finally Zelnara spoke. We will grant provisional Tier 4 status, she said. Trade access. Limited military recognition. Mara frowned. Provisional? Until your species proves stability, Zelnara replied. Elena sensed it then. The faint distortion in the chamber. Atlas had warned her about this possibility. Trap. We accept, Elena said slowly, with one addition. The chamber quieted. All Concorde classifications must be transparent, she said. No hidden threat levels. No secret evaluations. The hall erupted. That violates foundational security, shouted a delegate. Exactly, Elena replied. For us. Zelnara's eyes glittered. You ask too much. Elena stepped closer. No. You ask too little of yourselves. Behind the scenes something moved. Deep within the station an ancient failsafe activated. Not a weapon but a test. One used only on species deemed potentially catastrophic. Mara's implant chimed. Elena, she whispered. They're running a probability collapse simulation. On us. Elena's jaw tightened. The station's reality warped. Suddenly the humans were no longer in the hall. They stood on a ruined Earth. Sky blackened. Cities burned. Human ships lay shattered in orbit. A projection, yes, but one tied to predictive engines powerful enough to influence real outcomes. A voice echoed, layered and inhuman. This is your future, it said. If allowed to grow unchecked. Delegates watched from outside the simulation, gauging the humans' reactions. Mara's breath caught. They're trying to scare us into submission. Elena closed her eyes for 1 second. Then she laughed. The voice faltered. Explain. Elena looked at the burning world then back at the sky. This future assumes we remain the same, she said. We never do. She tapped her wrist. Atlas, she said calmly. Share the archive. Across the simulation new images appeared. Human history. Plagues survived. Empires fallen. Worlds scarred by war then rebuilt stronger. Each disaster followed by adaptation. Each extinction event narrowly avoided by innovation. Alien delegates recoiled as data poured in. They recover from collapse, one whispered. Repeatedly. And grow more dangerous after, another replied. The ancient voice spoke again, quieter now. This resilience exceeds projections. Elena met its gaze. You see destruction as failure, she said. We see it as information. The simulation destabilized. Reality snapped back to the assembly hall. Silence ruled. Zelnara floated back, shaken. You turned our test into a demonstration. Elena nodded. You wanted to know what happens if you push us. Now you do. But not all were convinced. Hidden among the delegates was Lord Veilrix, speaker for the Jacor Ascendancy, one of the oldest and most ruthless powers in the Concord. His kind valued control above all else. Humans could not be controlled. That made them unacceptable. As the session adjourned, Veilrix transmitted a silent order. Initiate containment protocol, he commanded. If diplomacy fails, remove the variable. Far from the assembly, in a dark system beyond Concord maps, massive shapes began to move. Weapons older than most civilizations powered on. And the Horizon's Wake, still alone in space, received an encrypted warning from Atlas. Captain, the AI said softly, multiple future branches just went dark. Elena stared at the stars. So, she murmured, they chose fear. The warning came without drama. No alarms. No flashing lights. Just Atlas speaking more quietly than usual. Captain Elena Ward, the AI said, Jacor Ascendancy fleets have activated containment protocol. You are designated an existential variable. Elena closed her eyes for a breath. So they decided to erase us, she said. Yes, Atlas replied. Probability of survival if we flee normally, near zero. Mara Chin leaned back in her chair, jaw tight. Ancient species never do things halfway. Raj scrolled through incoming data. They're sealing jump corridors. Predictive nets, gravity snares, autonomous hunter-killers. This isn't a chase. It's an execution. Elena stood. Then we stop running like prey, she said. We make them chase ghosts. The Horizon's Wake slipped into motion, not with a jump, but with a controlled fall through folded space. Stars stretched, bent, and rearranged themselves. Behind them, Jacor constructs emerged. They were not ships in the human sense. They were monuments, kilometers long, built from black alloys that drank light. Each one carried weapons designed to end civilizations, not battles. On the bridge of a Jacor flagship, Lord Veilrix watched the pursuit. The human vessel will be contained, he said calmly. All outcomes lead to termination. Probability anomalies detected, an advisor warned. They do not move like known prey. Veilrix's eyes narrowed. Adaptation is irrelevant. They are few. The first trap closed near a dead star. Gravity wells flared, forming a cage. Space itself thickened, locking movement. Mara exhaled slowly. They think we're caught. Elena nodded. Good. Atlas, she said, release the echoes. Across folded dimensions, dozens of false Horizon's Wake signatures bloomed. Not illusions but mathematically consistent ghosts, each following a believable path. Jacor weapons fired. Stars screamed as ancient beams erased space. They hit nothing. The real ship slid sideways through a seam no one else could perceive. Target confusion increasing, Atlas reported. Enemy prediction models degrading. On Varelian, panic returned to the Concord. They are provoking the Jacor, Zelnara whispered. That alone is suicidal. Kor shook his armored head. Or brilliant. The Jacor did not slow. They released the grave net. Across multiple systems, entire regions went dark. Trade lanes collapsed. Civilian worlds panicked as the hunt destabilized space. They don't care who gets hurt, Mara said coldly. They never do, Elena replied. Which is why they always lose eventually. Raj looked up. Captain, are we about to do something very human? Elena smiled grimly. Yes. She opened a channel. Not to the Jacor. To the Concord. This is Captain Ward, she said. Your inaction has consequences. The Jacor hunt us using weapons that endanger everyone. Zelnara answered, shaken. What do you expect us to do? Elena's voice hardened. Watch. Learn. And decide which side of history you're on. The Horizon's Wake changed course. Straight toward a Jacor control nexus. Mara stared. That's suicide. Elena shook her head. That's education. The nexus was a colossal structure anchored in a star's gravity. It controlled the grave net, coordinating every hunter across light years. Jacor fleets converged. Veilrix's voice echoed through command space. They approached the core. Increase firepower. Weapons older than suns charged. Atlas spoke. Captain, activating protocol Prometheus requires full disclosure. Elena nodded. Do it. A human message burst across every open frequency. To all Concord species, Elena said. What you are about to see is why humans survived a violent universe. Inside the horizon's wake, systems unlocked. Not weapons. Limits. The ship began to tear itself apart, deliberately. Hull plates shifted. Reactors overloaded in controlled patterns. Reality warped around human mathematics written in desperation and brilliance. Mara whispered, "We're breaking physics." "No," Elena replied softly. "We're negotiating with it." The ship slammed into the nexus. Then space folded inward. Not an explosion. A decision. The nexus vanished. Collapsed into a point smaller than thought, taking the grave net with it. Across the galaxy, Jakor weapons went silent. Fleets drifted blind. Veilrix stared at empty space where his control center had been. "That was not possible," he whispered. The horizon's wake emerged on the other side, damaged, burning, but alive. Raj laughed shakily. "We just punched a hole in an ancient empire." Elena sagged into her chair. "We didn't punch," she said. "We showed them we're willing to break ourselves to stop them." On Verelion, the Concord watched in stunned silence. "They sacrificed their own ship structure," Kor said slowly, "to save strangers." Zelnara's voice trembled. "That was not strategy." "It was," Kor replied. "Just not ours." But the Jakor were not finished. Veilrix's eyes burned with hatred. "Prepare the final instrument," he commanded. "If one ship can do this, their species must end." Far beyond known space, something vast and terrible began to wake. And humanity had just become its target. The final instrument was not a machine. Machines could be destroyed. This was an idea made real. Deep beyond mapped space, inside a region where stars formed wrong and time bent under its own weight, the Jakor kept their last answer to chaos. They called it the Quietus Array. It had ended wars before they began. It did not target ships or planets. It targeted potential. When activated, it erased a species' future by collapsing every path where that species survived. On the bridge of the horizon's wake, Atlas went silent for a long moment. Then the AI spoke with something close to fear. "Captain, I have identified the final instrument." Elena's heart sank. "Explain." "It is a probability extinction engine," Atlas said. "If fired at humanity, it will not destroy Earth immediately. Instead, every future in which humans endure will collapse. Accidents, wars, plagues, all paths converge on extinction." Mara swallowed. "We just fade out." "Yes," Atlas replied. "The galaxy would never know why." Raj stared at the stars. "That's worse than genocide." Elena closed her eyes. Humans had always feared death. But this was something deeper. Erasure without memory. On Verelion, the Concord finally fractured. "They will end a species to preserve control," Kor roared. Zelnara trembled. "We helped create this situation." Some delegates called for intervention. Others argued it was necessary. Lord Veilrix addressed them all. "Humans destabilize the order," he said coldly. "They must be removed before they infect the galaxy with chaos." The Quietus Array powered up. On Earth no one knew. Children played. Cities slept. Humanity lived its ordinary, fragile life. Elena watched a distant star flicker on her display. "We can't outrun this," she said quietly. "No," Atlas confirmed. "But there is one countermeasure." Mara looked sharply at the AI. "You're holding back." "Yes," Atlas said. "By human command." Elena nodded. "It's time." She turned to her crew. "There's something you need to know," she said. "The horizon's wake isn't unique. It's a prototype." Raj's eyes widened. "Of what?" "Of us," Elena replied. She activated a sealed file. Across the bridge, holograms appeared. Not ships. Humans. Human minds mapped into distributed networks. Human decision patterns encoded into reality engines. Not artificial intelligence. Artificial humanity. "We learned early," Elena said, "that no machine thinks like us. Too clean. Too predictable. So we stopped trying to replace ourselves," Mara whispered. "We multiplied ourselves." Atlas spoke again, voice steady. "I'm not an AI. I am a human composite. Thousands of minds, volunteers, woven together." Raj felt dizzy. "Your people." "Yes," Atlas replied. "And we are everywhere. Hidden across space, buried in comets, folded into background radiation, human cognition engines waited. Silent. Watching. Learning. The Quietus Array fired. Nothing happened. No explosion. No flash. Instead, probability shuddered. Then fractured. The array screamed as futures refused to collapse. Every time it erased a path, 10 new ones formed. Human adaptability, encoded into reality itself, multiplied faster than the weapon could erase. Veilrix shouted, "Increase output." The array overheated. It had been built to end static civilizations, not ones that evolved under pressure. On the horizon's wake, Atlas spoke urgently. "Captain, the array is destabilizing. If it collapses uncontrolled, it will tear a hole in causality large enough to consume Earth." Elena didn't hesitate. "Can we redirect it?" Mara asked. "Yes," Atlas said. "But only by anchoring it to a single probability." Raj went pale. "One future." Elena nodded. "One ship. One crew." She opened a channel to the Concorde. "This ends now," she said. "We will take the impact." Zelnara cried out. "You'll erase yourselves?" Elena smiled sadly. "Humans don't fear sacrifice. We fear stagnation." She looked at her crew. "Anyone want to object?" No one spoke. The horizon's wake turned toward the Quietus array. Veilrix watched in disbelief. "They choose annihilation?" "No," Elena whispered. "We choose meaning." The ship merged with the array. Probability collapsed inward, focused on one thread. One impossible future. Silence fell. The horizon's wake emerged, barely intact, drifting near Earth's orbit. The Quietus array was gone. Humanity remained. Across the galaxy, species stared in awe. "They defeated extinction itself," Kor said softly. Veilrix fell silent, his power broken. Elena looked at Earth on the view screen, blue and alive. "We're not finished," she said. "We're just getting started." The news spread faster than light. Not through relays or couriers but through shock. Entire civilizations felt it, like a wrongness snapping back into place. The Quietus array was gone. A weapon that had terrified even the oldest species had failed. And a single human ship had survived. On Varelion, the Galactic Concorde reconvened in emergency session. This time no one lounged. No one mocked. They stood. Kor of the Threx Dominion bowed his armored head. "Humanity has done what none of us could," he said. "They faced extinction and chose to protect others." Zelnara's many eyes dimmed with something like shame. "We classified them as unstable. We were wrong." Across the chamber, some delegates remained silent. Others whispered urgently. "The Jacor will not accept this," one warned. "They no longer have a choice," Kor replied. Deep within Jacor space, Lord Veilrix watched his empire fracture. Fleets hesitated. Ancient vassal species questioned orders for the first time in millennia. They defied inevitability, an advisor said softly. "Our authority weakens." Veilrix's voice was cold. "Then we remind the galaxy who enforces order." He issued one last command. "All remaining fleets," he said, "prepare for total war." The Jacor Armada moved. Thousands of war constructs surged toward human space, toward Earth. On the horizon's wake, alarms finally rang. Mara read the display. "That's not a fleet. That's an extinction wave." Raj swallowed. "Earth can't defend against that." Elena stood slowly. "No," she said. "But we can." She opened a secure channel. "Atlas," she said. "It's time to wake everyone." Across the void, something answered. Human cognition engines, long dormant, came online. Not ships. Not weapons. Minds. Millions of human thought patterns, archived across centuries, linked together. Soldiers, scientists, artists, survivors. Humanity's collective experience, focused into strategy. The galaxy felt it like pressure. "They're coordinating without command ships," Zelnara whispered. "How?" "They don't need hierarchy," Kor said. "They share intent." Humanity did not meet the Jacor head-on. They reshaped the battlefield. Trade lanes twisted. Gravity wells shifted. Jacor fleets found themselves separated, isolated, forced into positions they had never planned for. "They're rewriting engagement space," a Jacor commander shouted. "This violates every rule." "That's because they wrote new ones," Veilrix hissed. The first clash was brief and devastating. Human ships emerged. Not thousands. Hundreds. But each one carried distributed human intelligence. Each ship learned in real time, adapting instantly to enemy tactics. Jacor weapons hit, and missed. Or struck systems already abandoned. "They predict us," a Jacor officer cried. "Before we decide." Elena's voice echoed across human command space. "Remember," she said, "we're not here to conquer." Human ships struck key nodes, supply lines, communication relays. They disabled, not annihilated. Jacor cohesion collapsed. For the first time in their history they retreated. Valeric screamed in fury. This is impossible. They are chaotic. No, his advisor replied. They are united. The Horizon's wake led the final push. Elena opened a direct channel to Valrix. This ends today, she said. Valrix's image flickered, eyes burning. You could have been contained. Now you will rule like all predators. Elena shook her head. That's where you're wrong. We don't want to rule. She gestured and the battlefield froze. Human systems locked every Jakor fleet in place. Not by force. By choice. We offered cooperation, Elena continued. You chose domination. Valrix whispered, then finish it. Elena's voice softened. No, she said. We will do what you never could. She issued the final command. The human network disengaged. Jakor weapons powered down. Control hierarchies shattered. Their empire did not fall in flames. It simply stopped. On Varelion the Concord watched history change. They spared them, Zelnara said in disbelief. They taught them, Kor replied. The war was over. But something far larger had begun. Humanity had proven something no species ever had. That power without cruelty was possible. And the galaxy would never be the same. The war ended without a victory parade. No burning capitals. No conquered worlds. Just silence spreading slowly across the stars. Jakor fleets drifted in orderly disarray, weapons cold, hierarchies dissolved. Their empire, built on absolute control, had collapsed not through destruction but through exposure. Once their myth of inevitability was broken, it could not be repaired. On Varelion the Galactic Concord gathered one final time. This time the hall was full. Every major species attended. Even those who had hidden in fear now came forward, drawn by the gravity of what had happened. At the center hovered the image of a single ship. The Horizon's wake. Scarred. Repaired. Still small. Zelnara floated forward, her posture no longer arrogant but careful. Humanity, she said, the Concord recognizes that the galaxy exists because of your actions. Kor of the Threx Dominion stepped beside her and lowered his armored head fully. A gesture my people reserve only for equals, he said. You faced extinction for strangers. You ended an empire without becoming one. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Elena Ward, Zelnara continued, the Concord offers humanity a permanent seat of authority. Oversight power. Veto rights. Protection mandates. In simple terms they were offering humanity the throne. On the bridge of the Horizon's wake, Elena listened in silence. Her crew watched her, knowing the weight of the moment. Raj broke it softly. They're handing us the galaxy. Mara crossed her arms. If anyone deserves it. Elena shook her head. No, she said. She opened the channel. High Curator, Elena said calmly, humanity declines. The chamber froze. Declines? Zelnara echoed. Elena nodded. We didn't fight to replace the Jakor. We fought to make sure no one ever needs replacing again. Shock spread. You refuse power? A delegate demanded. Elena's voice was steady. We refuse absolute power. She continued, give us responsibility instead. Let us stand where systems break down. Where communication fails. Where extinction becomes a calculation. Kor's eyes widened. You would be guardians? Elena smiled faintly. Call it what you want. We call it helping. A long silence followed. Then one by one delegates signaled agreement. The Concord rewrote itself that day. No single species ruled again. Humanity became something new. Not leaders. Not conquerors. The variable. When ancient logic failed, humans were called. When prediction engines broke, humans stepped in. When survival required sacrifice, humans answered. Back on Earth, life went on. Children still argued. Nations still debated. Humanity remained flawed, emotional, unpredictable. And that was exactly why the galaxy trusted them. On a quiet night above Earth, the Horizon's wake drifted in orbit. Elena stood alone on the observation deck, watching city lights curve along the planet's edge. Atlas spoke gently. You could have ruled. Elena nodded. And we would have failed. Why? Atlas asked. Because the moment you believe you deserve the universe, she said, you stop listening to it. Mara joined her, leaning against the railing. So what are we now? Elena looked at the stars. We're proof, she said. That survival isn't about being strongest or smartest. It's about refusing to give up on each other. Far across the galaxy, a former Jakor world powered up its first independent council. Old enemies signed fragile treaties. Young species looked at the stars and felt something new. Hope. And fear. Because now the galaxy knew the truth. Humans were not dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they adapted, endured, and chose compassion even when extinction was easier. One ship had proven it. One crew had carried it. One miracle had changed everything. And somewhere in the endless dark, when a future trembled on the edge of erasure, the galaxy would whisper the same words with quiet certainty. Call the humans. Because they will come. Milky Way fire.